with
What's going on, everybody? We are here again for episode 7 of Wrestling with Tragedy, and we will be covering Bruiser Brody. But just before we do, guys, want to take a few quick seconds. I'm Kevin. That way, we have the king of the streets, the Kingpin Angel, and right down below, we have Mr. Piers Austin. We're all sportsed out today. We're repping our favorite jerseys, hanging back. Angel's rocking the Giants. I'm rocking the Ravens. He's got some Australian thing going on.
it's the Queensland state of origin team, mate, the Maroons.
Oh man, I love them with especially with coconut on it and stuff like that, and with the chocolate. Or is that a macaroon?
You're a dick.
Before we get started, guys, I just want to take one quick second to mention our sponsors. First of which being Myon Belts. Myon Belts is the premier belt maker in the world today. Any custom championship, replica championship, whatever you need, Myon Belts can take care of you. Hit up Myon Belts on Facebook, and if you can't find them, make sure you hit up one of the three of us, and we'll be able to point you in the right direction. They have an amazing payment plan. Payments as low as $20 a paycheck, guys. And Eddie and Ira Williams will get you any belt that you need. With that being said, we also have A-Rock Designs. A-Rock Designs is a personal customized business where they make all those cool wrestling cups you guys see floating around, whether it be wrestling related, non-wrestling related, cup shirts, hoodies, keychains. She can monogram your dog. I don't recommend it, but once again, guys, like Ted DiBiase said,
everybody got a price.
Everybody has a price.
Epic fail, Pierce. Epic fail.
I even pointed at him and everything. That being said, guys, we are going to be discussing Bruiser Brody.
Well, before we go any further, I just wanted to tell the fans out there, I just want to apologize for last week's show. We've been talking about it. And just to let you know, the reason we're looking at our phones is not that we're not being engaged in the conversation. We're looking up at information. So Pierce hit us on the head to tell us, like, well, he told me, he goes, look, you black motherfucker, I'm tired of you. And I said, but the basically is we're looking for information. We should have told you fans out there what we're doing, but that's why we keep looking down, is because we're just trying to verify the information.
Like I have my iPad right here, guys. Whenever I'm looking down, I'm not disengaged. But when we talk about something, we owe it to you guys to be as accurate as possible. And we just don't want to put out misinformation or anything like that. So Piers did bring up a very good point. And we just wanted to let you guys in behind that fourth wall of what we're doing here.
Absolutely, because we're transparent with our fans. We just don't want you, we're not engaged.
And make sure you follow us on Twitter and Instagram at WrestleTragedy.
With that being said, guys, we're going to discuss a topic that has been really brought into light. I mean, we all kind of knew about it, but when Dark Side of the Ring released their episode in season 1, it really got a lot of people talking. And this is one of the episodes we all really wanted to cover. We just wanted to space it out from Dark Side of the Ring so it didn't look like we were just trying to piggyback off of their success, which they most certainly deserve as a very well show. But let's talk about Bruiser Brody. Bruiser Brody, in my opinion, he was one of those believable characters. One of those people, when he come out and he was swinging that chain and he was 90 feet tall and just a mountain of a man, you really believed he was going to rip your head off. But when you talk to the people who knew him, he was one of the nicest people in the world.
Yeah, I mean, and you see what his wife was saying, that when she would drop him off at the airport, he'd have his hair tied up, he'd kiss his son goodbye, kiss his wife goodbye, get out of the car, take his ponytail out, and then she would see the transformation from Frank Goodish to Bruiser Brody. And what she was saying is the Bruiser Brody and Frank Goodish were two completely different people.
Yeah, but one of those things that he did so well, and you look at guys like what was his name? Dr. David Schultz. Guys who lived the gimmick. Back in that day, back in that time, it wasn't, as soon as the bell rings, that character's done. No. If you were seen in public, you were gimmicked up. You were that character. You were in that role. You made people believe that this was your life. And when you think about the people who are the best at doing that, Bruiser Brody's at the top of the list. Bruiser Brody, you didn't know the you didn't know the man Goodish. You knew Bruiser Brody.
Oh yeah, Bruiser Brody was an awesome athlete. I mean, the guy was just a badass brawler. But like I said, like Pierce said, he was just two different individuals, just like me, two different individuals. The Kingpin and Angel are two different individuals, and he flipped it on like a light switch when it was time to be Bruiser Brody. You know, it was phenomenal how he could change character or personas that quick.
Yeah. And as his wife said, it was when he was walking into the airport, he was, he was transforming into Bruiser Brody, and we make mention of Bruiser Brody and the tragic incident around him, but let's talk about what was leading up to it.
Yeah.
So, Bruiser Brody at the time was getting paid ridiculous money from Japan.
Mm-hmm.
And he wanted to buy into a promotion. And Puerto Rico, the World Wrestling Council, that was the one he wanted to buy into. So World Wrestling Council is, owned and run by Carlos Colon. So those who don't know who Carlos Colon is, he is the father of Carlito, a former WWE United States champion, former WWE.
He spits in the face of people who don't want to be cool.
Intercontinental champion and US champion, but also Primo and Epico as well. So,
well, I think Epico is the nephew. I think
Epico's nephew. Primo's the younger son. But the booker for WWC was Invader One, Jose Gonzalez, and Jose Gonzalez and Bruiser Brody had these matches against each other, and like from what my understanding was, the matches just never really seemed like they gelled. They just didn't like each other. They just couldn't gel for some reason. And very early on, Jose Gonzalez was supposed to be booked as the top guy, like the guy coming up.
Before you go any further, I just want to say one thing. You mentioned that the matches didn't gel together. When you have a guy who can gel with Abdullah the Butcher, when you have a guy who can go in there with Abdullah the Butcher and just tear it up and have an amazing match, but he can't get on board with you, there's a problem there.
Well, just egos. Not egos, but they just didn't match, man. I mean, Jose Gonzalez, I didn't even know him. I mean, I met him, but I stayed my distance from him. He looked like a person that is difficult to work with.
But so Jose Gonzalez, he was apparently in the early days of these guys working together, he was supposed to be brought in as like the John Cena of the time of the WWC in Puerto Rico. He got in the ring with Bruiser Brody, and Bruiser Brody beat the flipping brakes off of him and sent Jose Gonzalez to the hospital. And there was another American wrestler in the car. I think it was SD Jones, who was driving, and Jose turned to him and said, "I'm going to kill this man. One day I am going to kill him." So who knows? This could have stemmed from even back in those days, but leading up to it, there was definitely some friction there, and maybe Jose felt a little bit threatened that Brody was going to be coming in and taking his spot as the booker, taking his spot on the card. But Brody was already on the card, so
at this time, Brody was an international superstar, going from America to Mexico to Japan to Puerto Rico. Everybody knew Bruiser Brody. Like I said, when you seen that 7-foot afro and chain wielding man coming through the crowd, you knew it was go time.
Dude, the crowd used to fucking separate. You know what I mean? It was like a parting of the sea of the people. And, like I've just been going back and rewatching a whole heap of Brody stuff. And it's just mind-boggling to see that just the crowd just separates.
Yeah, man, he was a towering figure. I remember when I was in Puerto Rico I think I was like 13 or 14. It depends on what year he died. But I remember when I was in San Juan and I was walking down the street and he walked by me going into the hotel, and he was wearing a Japan yellow shirt. He had his hair in a ponytail. All I saw was his back and the side of his face. But like, holy shit, it's Brody, but he just walked in. I never stopped him. But that guy back was, I mean, again, for a 13-year-old, everything's huge. but he was just massive for I had to look up to him. I mean, just like how you look up to us, Pierce, every time you stand next to us, But it was he was huge, man. He was massive.
And one of my one of my good friends, his grandfather actually saw Bruiser live, and he said when he would come out,
Asshole.
he would be whipping that chain so fast it sounded like a helicopter blade.
Oh, I do that when I drop my pants.
Oh,
It was too. I had to.
we're not that kind of show, Angel. Come on, we've talked about this.
There's no controlling him.
Yeah, we apologize for the kingpin.
But so we get into his time in Puerto Rico.
God damn it, Kevin.
And another person that Bruiser was very, very close with was Tony Atlas.
Yes.
They rode together. They were friends, and he's been very outspoken about what's happened. So I guess I'll just go ahead and get right into it. Tony has gone on record in saying that he was meeting with Busier Brody in the locker room, and they were just sitting down talking, and Busier Brody pulls out, or he notices that Tony is a fairly decent artist. Like he can draw. And Busier Brody asked Tony if he can draw a picture for him, and he pulls out a picture of his son, and he gives it to him, and they're really just having a heart to heart, and for whatever reason, Tony walks away, and Bruiser's there by himself. Or nope. Correction. Once again, this is why we have the phones and stuff going on. Jose Gonzalez actually asked Brody, "Can I talk to you?" And he pulls Brody aside, and they go into a separate room. And next thing, this is not a funny situation, but like I said in the previous episode, we find humor in very dumb things. Tony Atlas's imitation of Busier Brody screaming was the funniest thing in the world to me. Tony says that all he heard was and he made that face, and it was so funny. But he said when he got in there that there was blood everywhere, that Busier Brody had been stabbed, and he was saying to Tony, he said, "Don't let them hurt me anymore. Don't let them hurt me." Now, Angel, as being a police officer, those, I guess you'd call it spontaneous confessions or whatever the case may be, really hold a lot of weight. You were being 100% honest in those times, and you were saying exactly what you mean. There's no time to think of a story or a lie or to get it confused or anything like that. So there's been a lot of controversy about maybe it was more than one.
Well, the thing, my thought process is when it's brought to my attention is that I remember stories that Busier Brody was conducting business, and that's why they had not heat but disagreements with with Carlos and Brody. Yeah. So I'm just visually seeing okay, what happened if they did have a meeting prior to the show? Maybe something happened where just like one of those mafia movies, like when he walks away and they go, deal with it. I mean, that's just how because if he says, "Don't let them get to me," don't let they. It's just that could have been something happening before that built it up to because I know not Ray Gonzalez. Sorry, I keep thinking of all the other pro wrestlers, but I just think that I know his kid died and drowned in a pool, so he was already fucked up in the head from his situation, but I don't know. I might just thought process something must have happened before then that sparked it up to that point.
I'll tell you what really stands out to me.
And I'm looking at information as well.
They rush Busier Brody to the hospital. Tony Atlas goes and he finishes the night. I believe he said he went and wrestled his match. And as it was concluding and he was coming back, the police were there, and they asked Tony Atlas, "Can you identify the fan who attacked
Yes.
Brody? Can you identify the fan who attacked your friend? Can we take a minute and talk about this for a second?
Absolutely.
I mean, what? Oh.
Well,
I mean,
no,
it's a time and a
Tony Atlas says right then and there, it wasn't a fan. It was that mother. Now, Angel, as police officers, if you have somebody telling you that it was a fan, but then now, and the person who tells you a fan did this, there's your eyewitness.
yeah.
So I come to you and I go, a fan stabbed this guy over here, and Piers is your witness. And Piers goes, as somebody that I just told you was a witness. And Piers goes, it wasn't a fan. It was that guy you were just talking to. How do you respond as a police officer to that?
Well, first of all, if it was in a situation like that and said that was that motherfucker, first I'd get him in custody, put him in cuffs, and separate.
Immediately going into cuffs. That's not saying he is innocent or guilty. There's a potential threat.
Mhm.
There's obviously been a weapon used. And as an officer, you need to protect everybody involved immediately. He's not innocent. He's not guilty. Immediately going in cuffs and being isolated. What that does is it prevents stories from getting fabricated. It prevents people from, hey, Piers, we kind of did this together. What are you going to say? What am I going to say? It prevents that from happening, even though, let's be honest, they've already been around each other long enough. This has probably been something that's premeditated. They've probably already got that, but you need to do everything you can. None of this happened. None of it. If you were accused of a heinous crime like murder, any crime, whether it be shoplifting, whatever the case may be, it's called what's it called? Sequestration. You sequester the witnesses. You separate. Sequester means to separate. You separate the parties, and he's immediately going in cuffs and getting in the back of my daggum car.
And protect the integrity of the crime scene as well.
Exactly. And what that also does is, and I'm not trying to get on my soapbox as a police officer, but what that does is when you can come up to somebody and you go, so what's more realistically to happen here and go your way, Angel? If I come up to you and go, hey, man, I don't know the facts of the case yet. I don't know what's going on. But for right now, while I do my questioning, I'm putting you in cuffs. You're going to sit right here. You're not under arrest, but you're just going to stay right here. Now the facts come out, and he is the guy that did it. Are you a lot safer doing it that way, or are you a lot safer leaving him as a free man, giving him the chance to run and be like, huh, now you're under arrest for murder, and now he's not in cuffs. He has a chance to fight back. You eliminate that threat right off the bat by doing a calm approach and telling him, you're not under arrest. I just need to figure this out. You're going to have a lot more success doing that. And I know this is off topic as a cop, but it's so bred into our minds on safety and everything. But anyway, getting back to it, Angel, your response on how you would handle somebody saying, no, it wasn't a fan, it was that guy you were just talking to.
Well, like, absolutely, I agree with you, Kevin. The fact is that when if he says that guy is the guy who stabbed him, definitely you put him in cuffs. Make sure hey, let me see your hands, because he could be wearing the evidence right on him, the blood, the hands on his.
You're probably going to draw down on him.
Yeah, so definitely draw down on him. Make sure put him in cuffs, pat him down. Look at him to see, like, okay, does any blood, any evidence? But again,
blood splatter.
Blood spatter, all that stuff, because also evidence. Because if you let him roam, if he goes, hey, what fan attacked him? And they go, what do you mean? And then he can continue to run around. He could change clothes. He could wash his hands. I mean, you're the longer you wait, the less chances of you having more evidence. Mm-hmm. So I would just say, get him in cuffs, separate everybody, get everybody's name and information that's there. Don't let nobody in and walk on the crime scene. See where the crime scene happened. Tape that off. And
that's the hardest part about being a police officer, and it's why we as police officers, former police officers, whatever the case may be, get such a bad rap, is because we have to make those split-second decisions. We don't have a double take. We don't get 20/20 hindsight a look at things. We have to act right then, right there. Is it always right? No. But that's when you do your best to apologize and explain yourself on, look, I had to do this. I'm sorry. I was wrong. You're free to go. But that's why police officers get such a bad rap, is because you have to make those split-second decisions, and you're not always right. But you still, at the end of the day, you can't be afraid to make that split-second decision.
But the funny thing about Puerto Rico, and again, I'm Puerto Rican, I can say it, it's just that it's just the cops are real weird and they're real shady because they don't they're not getting paid enough. And Carlos had money, man. And again, I'm just speculating. I'm just going off from my experience in the business. I mean, he greased a lot of palms, and this is just shit that used to come back at me. Like, yeah, he used to grease a lot of people's palms to get what he wanted. So again, I won't be surprised that he, paid off some officers, some detectives, because like I said, I'm not trying to jump ahead into the case, but I mean, the guys were getting fucking subpoenaed to go to court a week after the court.
After the court, yeah, we're definitely going to talk about that one.
Yeah, like what? This was 2 weeks ago, and I'm in the United States. Yeah, that's bullshit.
But that's
so, Piers, anything you want to say on what we've covered so far?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you want to know what you would do as police officers in that situation. However, this is 1988 in Puerto Rico. Corruption is running rampant. Angel touched on it. The cops over there went, "Oh, that guy over there, the one that just handed me that envelope full of cash. Yeah, we'll talk to him later." You know what I mean? Like they were the ones covering it up. Clearly,
yeah. At this time, corruption. Like, don't get me wrong, there's corruption everywhere you look.
Yeah.
But at this time period in Puerto Rico, corruption wasn't even trying to be hidden. It was front street. It was front page news.
Yeah. And that was the thing. Even like they were saying with Jose Gonzalez, that Jose, when he was calling Brody in, he had his right hand covered with a towel.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And with his other hand, he was saying, "Brody, can you come here, please? Can we talk in here?" And it wasn't unreasonable or strange for two wrestlers to discuss their match behind closed doors, away from everybody,
to protect the business.
Exactly. And one of the things I was saying that when Tony Atlas went in and grabbed him and pulled him back, when Jose was coming down with a knife, it actually, like how sharp this knife was, it came straight down and cut Brody's ponytail straight off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's how sharp it was.
And that was the thing. Like he went to the hospital and they said that he had 2 stab wounds. There was one to his chest, his abdomen type area, and one to his side where his liver is. And they even told Tony Atlas, he's in a stable condition. He has got a laceration to the liver, which we've got to try and figure out how to fix. But other than that, he's stable. And that's again, even how was the medical treatment to Busier Brody that he received? Was it to the same quality and standard that a stab wound victim would have received in the United States or Australia, for example?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So we go to moving on to other parts of this incident. You bring up that Tony Atlas saw the knife. He saw the action of the stabbing. That he heard from the hospital that he was stable, that everything seemed to be going fairly well, and Brody was going to be okay. But it wasn't okay. He ended up passing. And you bring up a very, very, between everything we've said, corruption was everywhere. These are just opinions. We go off the facts that we know, but we really give our opinions. I honestly believe that not only did the Colognes have a hand in the law enforcement side, but they also had a hand in the medical side. Like, hey, make it look like you tried, but don't really try.
Ooh, that's a big call.
Yeah.
Is it hard? Is it unreasonable to think that something like that could happen?
Well, I mean, the thing is that in Puerto Rico, I mean, that's one of the things I was like, I don't want to go in the hospital in Puerto Rico. I was always scared about ended up in the hospital in Puerto Rico. And I'm not saying that medical and medicine technology is not up to par, but it's just, I was always worried about that. But again, like I said, it's just so many holes that you 1 minute you're fine, unless the cut to the liver and stuff, and then they say he's going to be fine, and all of a sudden he dies. I don't think they put their best foot forward to save him. I just think they did their kind of like run of the mill.
And that's exactly what I'm saying as well.
I'm agreeing with you. That's what I just think. They just kind of like shuffled along and just kind of like bullshit their way through it. I don't know. It just doesn't seem right. It doesn't. A lot of the stories they're saying don't click. I'm trying to find the autopsy report.
And then you move on to, like we were saying, they take Tony's statement, they take a bunch of statements from people that were there, and they actually try the case in court. They actually try Hector Gonzalez for the murder of Busier Brody.
Mm-hmm.
But the key witnesses, like we stated earlier, now, from my experience, when someone gets subpoenaed, as soon as the docket leaves the court and they have a date of when this case is going to go to court, subpoenas start going out. For officers who were there, witnesses who were there, immediately start going out. And the reason that is because it is punishable by jail, by incarceration to ignore a subpoena.
There's a contempt in court. Contempt.
Mm-hmm. And Tony Atlas, once again, one of the key witnesses in this, says he was watching it on TV that the case was done. He was found not guilty. And then a week later, he gets his subpoena in the mail to go to court.
Yeah, that's the weird thing. I mean, usually you even get if you didn't even show up to court, I can't remember. It's been such a long time. And like I said, there's consequences when you don't show up. But
here it's punishable up to 30 days in the county jail.
I know. And the thing is that I'm assuming you get some type of documentation after the fact saying, look, motherfucker, you didn't show up in court. Guess what? You're going to jail, or you need to appear in court.
Even if it's in a different country, though?
Well, Puerto Rico
we can only speak for the laws here.
Mm.
Well, you've been in Puerto Rico. You could probably speak for over there, but me personally, I can only speak for what I know, and that is Georgia law. And maybe Angel can shed a little more light on that.
Now the problem is that since Puerto Rico is a Commonwealth, I don't know their laws in regards to if it mirrors the same thing as the U.S. or it mirrors what it is in Mexico or Colombia, how they handle subpoenas. But I think it's still the same because, again, they fall under U.S. territory. So I don't think their laws are too far off different for what it is in the U.S. But again, this is 1988, and a lot of people, this is paper, actual physical documentation that could be lost. This is not the internet, and you can put it on a computer and you can pull it from a hard drive, or even when you try to delete it, you can still pull it. Wow. So again, I don't know what the rules are out there when you don't appear in court. What is the the punishment, But I don't want to go to jail in PR. Fuck that.
And you know what? That's the thing. We talk, about Tony Atlas, telling him who the actual murderer was, getting the late notice, in the mail to a subpoena to go to court. It just feels like the whole case, the whole thing was just like, let's sweep this under the rug as quickly as fucking possible. And let's just try and push this Tony Atlas dude far away from it as possible. And let's get this done and dusted. And, this guy got away with murder.
Yeah, and I'm trying to find, because I remember seeing the autopsy report in regards to, but I can't freaking find it. So I was just trying to get some more documentation in regards to that. But anyway, yeah, I mean, like I said, he was walking around free. I don't even think, I don't even know if Carlos posted bail for him, or he posted bail to get out, or was he even held in the jail to get out?
I believe he was held in jail for less than an hour, and Carlos posted bail. I could be wrong, but I'm like 90% positive that's what I read, was that he actually was arrested, and Carlos posted his bail in less than an hour.
And right there, that gives you to me, that gives me like, why are you posting bail for one? I don't see anybody from the NFL posting bail for Joe Blow citizen, or you know what I mean? Why are you posting bail for this guy? Unless you're trying to get him out to definitely like, yo, we need to talk because I'm involved in this shit. That's just how I look at it. We need to get our story straight because it was kind of going hectic over there. So we need to sit down.
Yeah, I mean, maybe why else would Carlos bail him out? Like, was he involved and he thought, the only way to stop Jose from, being a rat, get him out of there quick?
Because think about it. You said he's been in jail for how long? You think you said
1 hour? He said.
Yeah, it was less than an hour.
And then you don't even have enough time to question the guy.
You weren't even properly booked in an hour, Angel. Let's go ahead and be honest here. As far as technological advances, America is light years ahead of Puerto Rico. That's just how it is. Facts are facts.
Yeah.
When you are booked into jail, all of your personal information, to include next of kin, job history, fingerprints, photographs, all of that stuff, your charges, your warrants, all that's read to you. No, there is no way, even if you have the most proactive officer, with the most proactive judge, with the most proactive jail staff, with the fastest internet connection known to man, there is no way to properly book somebody within an hour.
This is my thought right here. And this is towards Kevin. Okay, my thought process is this from my past experiences that we hook them, we take them to the 6th floor, which that's the 6th floor for me, and you question him. This is before he even gets considered to be transported to jail, and we're going to book him on those charges. So I want to know how long by the time they were like, if they got him in custody, and when they did get him in custody, how long was the interview process when they questioned him in regards to the situation? Then he got booked into jail, because if he got out within an hour, I'm just trying to see, like, did they even question?
You're absolutely right, because going to jail for like what's some kind of petty crime, like a vandalism or like a shoplifting or something like that, it's cut and dry.
Yeah,
you're going to jail. But for like murder or like a serious felony, before you are arrested, they have to have what is called probable cause. Probable cause is the facts and circumstances that make a reasonable or prudent person believe that a crime has been or is being committed. Point blank. That's probable cause. That is the book definition of probable cause. And you have to find probable cause before you can arrest somebody. And the only way to do that is to interview or interrogate, whichever term you like to use. An interview, an investigation, interrogation, whatever term you want to use. So he would have had to have been in the realm of what should have happened. He would have had to have been interrogated, interviewed, questioned, whatever terms you'd like to use. I know a lot of people hate that interrogated term, but that's what it is, guys. But that would have had to have taken place. And then from there, the detectives or investigators, whatever their proper title is, make the decision to, hey, do we have probable cause here to take this in front of a judge? If the answer is yes, you arrest them and you go file your warrants. You have 48 hours to secure a warrant for somebody before, and there's a point to me saying this, I promise. You have 48 hours to secure a warrant and 72 hours to serve a warrant before somebody is released. And then from there, they are booked and all that other good stuff. Now, the reason I bring up the time periods on securing a warrant and serving a warrant, if you are arrested for murder, which he was, and you have to secure a warrant, which they would have had to do, you have 48 hours. How the hell did all that get done in less than an hour? Because you cannot, if you are arrested for murder and warrants are secured on you, you cannot be released until you are served your warrants. Angel, right or wrong?
Correct. And I'm sorry, I was just reading. He says here that Gonzalez was arrested and charged with murder. He spent one night in jail before bonding out. So I'm not finding any information that he was placed in custody, questioned before he was even booked in for the murder. So, I'm not finding nothing that, 9 out of 10, they usually say, yeah, he was questioned. They found enough evidence to hold him for the situation, and can't find anything about that as far as I can. Unless you can find it, but I can't. And this was in the Orlando Sentinel.
Let me try and take a look here, guys. I'm just going to see if I
because you know how long
details on his arrest and possibly the autopsy report.
Because the funny thing is that, I mean, I've been in interviews because I'm a Spanish speaker and stuff, but regardless, I've been in interviews for like 2, 4, 5 hours questioning this guy and
Mm.
grilling him and grilling him and grilling him until he slips up or there's holes in his story. Now, it just makes it seem like they just hooked him, booked him, put him in there. Just nobody spoke to him, just enough time for them to get bonded out and then try to like smooth things over. Again, I'm just going off what I'm visually seeing and what my gut is telling me. I'm not saying this is fact, this is fiction. I'm just because there's probably more to the story, but from what I'm finding out, it's like he was never questioned. They just like, let's just throw him in jail, get him out, and because he was acquitted quickly. Yeah, I mean, the way it looks is just quick.
Yeah, and look with it, they said he spent one night in jail. So spending one night in jail, like is that even enough time? Like, what happens in that night? Like, would they be questioning him overnight, like through the night, or would they be questioning him saying, "No, we're going to hold you in custody"?
You have what's called on-call judges who are there to sign warrants at any time of the day.
Mhm.
So if it was a full night, a full 6 to 8 hours, whatever the case may be, or even a 24 hours, it's possible. But 9 times out of 10, because you have that 48 hours to secure a warrant, a judge ain't waking up in the middle of the night. They're like, hey, I got 48 hours. I'll do it when I wake up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only times you really see judges wake up in the middle of the night to sign a warrant is if it's like a search warrant that has to happen right here, right now. But as far as like charges, like somebody going to jail and a judge doing a warrant for charges, like I said, they have 48 hours to do so. Why are you going to wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning to do it when you can do it at lunch the next day?
And the funny thing is, you better have a good reason to wake up a judge, because judges, because
They don't
it's not like the movies where I'm going to go to Judge so and so and have him fill this. It's just like wrestling. You're like, oh, I don't want to rock the boat, because then he'll throw up my other cases because I rubbed them the wrong way because I woke him up at 2 o'clock in the morning, which I could have waited till 8 a.m.
Yeah.
Man, you have to have a good reason to go to that motherfucker's house. A real solid
2 o'clock in the morning.
Because he'll recognize me and Kevin like, Medina, I remember this. No, case dismissed. Not enough evidence.
But Angel, you were in Puerto Rico. Did you ever meet Jose Gonzalez, or were you ever around him?
Yeah, when in IWA, I mean, like I said, since he already had that bad reputation, I never met him in person after. Yeah, of course, in IWA, yeah, but you just hear the man, the myth, the legend philosophy. I never met him until that day, and I'm like, man, I'm staying away from this motherfucker. I value my liver, and which was a straight shoot. I mean, I stayed away from him because, again, I'm not saying something will happen to me. I just didn't want to associate myself with the guy. I mean, his claim to fame is Puerto Rico. He knew he was not going to get off the island because he knew if he came to the States, it was just funny. He never left Puerto Rico. I bet you he was worried that he would just get sliced like in the movie Bronx Tale. Like years later, his son come out of nowhere and shoot him in the head. And he just didn't want to take that risk, I'm assuming. But he was quiet. He's just gristly looking dude, and I just kept my distance from him. But for that reason.
What about as a worker? How was he in the ring?
I never worked with him. I seen him. I mean, he was old. I mean, at that time, he was probably like my age or maybe a little bit more, and he was still moving. But again, he was just like OJ Simpson, man. He was just, you just don't want to be associated with the guy,
Yeah,
I just kept my distance.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we're looking at Busier Brody, and the sort of life that he did live. He held many titles, and one of the titles that he did hold was the WCW Australian World Brass Knuckles Championship, which he won in Sydney, Australia.
That means a lot to you, doesn't it?
It does. You know what it does? WCW Australia in the late 70s, man, was a big thing in Australia. It was before I was born, but I was still going back and being able to catch a lot of it. And we got a lot of big names that came out. But that's where Brody went on to obviously meet his future wife and then go on to have a child. So obviously Australia was a place which was very near and dear to Brody's heart as well. But we look at what Brody left behind and what happened, and the aftermath, what happened from Brody's murder. He left a wife and a child behind. And there was no conviction. There was never any closure for the loss of a husband, a father, a friend, a family member. His family never got that closure, and that's heartbreaking. It's like 31, 32 years later, and still nothing.
And having that closure and being somebody who's had to unfortunately inform someone that their family member is no longer with us, and it's one of the hardest conversations to have, and it never gets any easier. But when you're able to go and say, hey, Mrs. So and so, hey, Mr. So and so, this is, Officer so and so, and I just wanted to let you know that we have made an arrest in the involvement of your family members passing, and we got the guy or we got the girl or whatever the case may be. That is the only conversation that makes that conversation somewhat easier. It's the only piece being able to give that and it's like the family's able to. Granted, nothing's going to bring back their family member, nothing, and nothing's going to replace that. But it from my experience, and I'd love to get Angel's take on this. It helps the family breathe a little easier. It helps them sleep a little better at night, and it really goes a long way in helping the mourning process.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's just funny how, it has to be real difficult. I mean, death is, when I was a cop and people die in the streets, officers, and they tell you the story like, hey, sorry to tell you that your husband was shot and killed in the line of duty, and they run to the hospital and they're able to hold their loved ones. But when you're overseas or when you're, even in combat or even in wrestling or even you're overseas and you get a phone call late at night because of the time difference, and then they tell you your son or your wife or your husband was killed, murdered, died. And you have that heaviness in your chest because you cannot go and hold them, even though they're dead. I mean, they're overseas, so you have to wait for them to get to you.
Ultimate feeling of being powerless.
Yeah, and then when you find out that they got a hold of the killer and stuff like that, and you just want to go over there and find out, just to face that criminal and see him, get justice done. Man, I could just feel the lump in her throat just trying to understand what went wrong with this whole situation, especially knowing him as a nice guy. And, like I said, two different people, and how can this happen to him? And she doesn't know the truth. I fucking go batshit crazy.
But imagine, we talk about Dark Side of the Ring, and Abdullah the Butcher claims that he ran into Brody's wife and was the one that told Brody's wife what had happened. Man, to say that to someone, to say someone, to say in that situation, hey, actually, no, he's not stable. He passed this morning. You know what I mean? That would be a hard pill to swallow, and that would be a hard conversation to have. But but that's just coming from Abdullah the Butcher, and I'm sure his reputation precedes himself and on what could have actually been said. But now, Kevin, what's your take on that?
Well, before you get Kevin in there, the other problem that I was just thinking, when you're, how can I explain it? Basically, this: if I died, right, and Kevin was there, and he witnessed me getting shot and me getting killed, and we're supposed to be buddies, my family is going to say, "What the fuck did you do when this happened? Where were you? How come you didn't stop it? How come you didn't testify?" You're going to be put on a spot because you were there. So if Brody came up to me and says, "Yeah, I was there and I saw your dad get killed," okay, what did you do? Because I know the fact that they were scared, because you're in a foreign country. You go, man, I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to get involved because then my life is in danger. Because remember in the story, Atlas was like, yo, I was scared. I wanted to get the fuck out of Puerto Rico. I didn't want to stay there because they knew I knew what happened, because he would have fell down the stairs. And I think, I'm trying to remember, something about somebody was going to go back to their hotel room, but they took him straight to the airport. I don't know if it was Mandy Fernandez or it was Tony Atlas.
It was Tony.
Yeah, they were waiting for him.
He didn't want to go back.
Something happened.
Tony Atlas said that whoever was going to take him back whoever he was riding with was like, "Come on, I'll take you back to the hotel. Let's go back to the hotel. Let's go back to the hotel." And he said, take me to the airport. And they're like, "Tony, what about your stuff?" "I'll get new stuff. Take me to the
Yeah,
airport."
fuck that.
Because the story I think I remember, and again, I want to say they were waiting for him, at the hotel, and that's why they took him to the airport. But again, I got to look that up. But that's just what's in my brain. But anyway, Kevin, back to you. You were gonna say?
I was gonna say exactly what you just said. It really, human beings do this all the time, and it's not something they do consciously. It's not something they do knowingly and willingly, but something we do. I do it. Angel does it. You do it. Whether it be your kids, your friends, whatever. We always want to find someone or something to blame because it makes it easier.
Yeah.
And when you have somebody who was there, somebody who was considered to be a friend, somebody who knew him outside the business, like the butcher did, somebody who was very familiar with his family, somebody who knew all this stuff. If it's me, I'm going to say, even though I know there was nothing he could have done, I'm still going to say, what did you do? So I agree 100% with Angel, but the only thing I would add to that is it's got to be. It was just as equally as hard as it was to hear it with Brody's wife. It was just as hard, and I can say this from experience. It was just as hard for Abdullah to say it.
That's what I was getting at.
Because when you have Piers, let's take me and you for example. God forbid, hope it never happens. But let's say me and you are hanging out, and now I have to go explain to your wife, Ashley, why Piers is no longer here. Not only is she experiencing this and wondering what I did to help you or save you, but now me having to tell this story, I have to relive my friend's death in my mind, in my heart, in my feelings, whatever the case may be. So I understand how hard it is for her to hear this, but more times than not, it is just as hard for the person to say it, especially being so close, because now you are having to relive your friend's passing. And perfect example, as both of you know, I served years in the military. Oh, I get this question all the time. Are you okay to talk about things, or does it bother you if you talk? No, it doesn't bother me at all. You can ask me any question you want about my military career, about my law enforcement career. I don't have a problem. Do not ask me about my friends. Do not ask me what happened to my friends. You ask me any question you want about me, because it happened to me. I'm okay with talking about it. Do not ask me what happened to my friends, because then in order to tell you what happened, I have to relive what happened. And I refuse to do that. I refuse to go to that place. So the point I'm trying to make is, just as hard as it was for her to hear it, it was equally, if not harder, for him to say it.
I agree, yeah.
You know what's funny that keeps jumping out at me? Okay, and this is, again, I'm sorry to keep you out, Pierce, because you're the law enforcement part, but Kevin,
No.
But look at it from this.
This is one of the ones where me and Angel's going to go back and forth a lot.
What kills me is that, okay, this was premeditated, because
Absolutely.
if I was questioning it, you had your knife and a towel. You had intentions to go into that shower.
Real quick, while you just said that, because you brought up the fact that premeditated, for those of you who don't know, the difference between spontaneous and premeditated is about 10 years.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, let's just go with this, right? If he was sitting there and he was cutting fruit and he had a knife and he was talking to the guy and it got heated and he stabbed him, to me, okay, you did not have that plan. They just, like a heat of passion. You got mad and you stabbed him, and you got into a fight and you stabbed him. But this time you walked. You took that knife, you put it in a towel, you held it in your hand, you walked into that shower. You had an intention.
You formulated a plan.
He had a plan. You planned it. You went in there. You knew you were gonna do something if it didn't go in your favor. So that's why I'm like. And then they said it was self-defense. How the fuck is it self-defense? If it was a knife in my pocket that is my everyday carry knife, and then then something happened, we got into a fight. I pulled it out because he was trying to reach for my knife, and I fought it off.
You're
and I
choking
stabbed
the crap out of me, and I'm fighting, or.
Yeah.
But he didn't know. Like, perfect. When I wrestled, I always carried a towel around my neck or in my hand, like Mr. Perfect. If you have a knife in your hand, a butcher knife or whatever fillet knife, whatever you have in your hand, and you're holding it just the same way Mr. Perfect, I'm using him as an example of how he held the towel in his hand. You can't tell that there's a knife in that towel. You know, you don't know, especially if you're talking real close to him. And then all of a sudden you just go and slice him close. That's close. That's not like he's lunging at him. That's a close across the stomach at a arm's length. So me, that's what my brain be looking at like. And then they say self-defense. Dude, that don't make any fucking sense. Kevin, Pierce?
He was unarmed. Self-defense or what? I mean, you know.
Well, I see where you're getting at, but you take so take this for example. Me versus Ashley. My wife Ashley. My wife is like 5'4", 100 pounds maybe. I'm 6'5", I'm 280. I don't have a gun. I don't have a knife. But if we get into an all-out fist fight, is her life in danger? It absolutely is.
But remember the New Jack story I told you where he came in and jumped on that guy right next to me, and we all helped out New Jack. I'm just saying, you have a locker room full of the boys. If Bruiser Brody was choking him, Bruiser Brody was punching him, Bruiser Brody whatever, yo guys. The boys would have been in that shower real quick to pull him off. I could not see any type of real serious damage that happened within that time frame for him to say that my life was in danger.
I'm not justifying or saying it was or wasn't.
No,
I'm just because there's an absence of a weapon on one person's part doesn't necessarily mean that their life isn't in jeopardy.
No, but like, what was the size difference between Jose Gonzalez and you don't reckon?
But with wrestlers, it's a different mindset, man. I mean, I've been in the Big Show's face and go, "You piece of shit." You know what I mean? Because you're a wrestler, you're tough, man. I will not. Bad News Allen versus Andre the Giant. Get the fuck off the bus. I'm gonna kick your ass. See, we don't fear that. I mean, there's no fear in that aspect. So I don't think his life was in immediate danger.
No. This was cold blood murder.
Do you think that it was a planned out murder?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
All the evidence points to it, guys. There's
only one thing, in my opinion. There's only one thing that can make this even more clear. Like this is clear-cut, premeditated murder. There's only one thing that could have happened differently that would make it even more clear-cut murder, premeditated. And that is if he would have planted the knife in the room he had the conversation at. He held it, he carried it with him. However, if he would have went and planted it there but then you're subject to, can I get him to stand in this exact spot? Am I going to have enough time to lunge for the knife and go after him before he knocks me the fuck out with one punch?
Yeah.
But yes, I do believe it's premeditated murder.
And I bet you dollars to donuts, if Bruiser Brody would have took that knife away from him and stabbed him, his ass would have been in jail. He would have been prosecuted and thrown in, because again, he's the outsider. You know, he's not a native. I bet you his white ass would have been. And I'm just defending Brody.
That's another thing I'm doing as a police officer. If I find out that it happened right here, and this story unfolds the way it has, the first thing I'm going to do is see if there's a second weapon in that room, because it happens all the time. If I'm carrying a weapon and me and Angel get into a fight, and things don't go the right way, and he gets the best of me, now he's got that knife. I need a backup plan.
Yeah,
true.
I'm just obviously this part of the conversation for me is all speculation. I'm just saying, to answer your previous question, the skinny version, yes, I do think it was premeditated. Yes, I think it was murder. Yes, I think he should rot in prison. And hell yes, I think there's a lot of corruption going on here.
Let me ask one question. So Angel said before is like, you jump in for the boys, like, the New Jack situation where New Jack came in, you motherfucked him and like put this guy on the ground and started kicking the shit. And the boys started kicking out the shit out of the guy that New Jack was on. Now, put in the situation of, obviously there was heat between Jose Gonzalez and Busier Brody. Jose Gonzalez is the booker. Brody's one of the boys and one of the top stars of the promotion. They have a physical altercation in your locker room, Angel. Whose ass are you going to help kick? The booker, the guy who's deciding what happens to the kingpin, or one of the boys?
Straight shoot, thinking as a wrestler, they're going to protect the booker because they don't want to lose their spot. They're going to go after the person that's not part of the everyday locker room. Because Brody was just back and forth, and he
Right.
was.
And then when you throw in the fact that Brody was an outsider, the Booker wasn't. The Booker was native. He was one of the boys. He was very close knit with the family who owned it. When you put all that together, I mean, it's.
Well, you can't even, like you said. I mean, Carlos bailed him out. How many companies would Vince bail you out? Would
That depends if it was Brock Lesnar or not.
Huh?
I said that would depend if it was Brock Lesnar or not.
Yeah, but I mean,
That's a tragedy itself.
You're putting yourself out there when you, the owner of the company, not knowing what's going on, bails the guy out. Supposedly, you don't know what's going on. Oh, I don't know, man. It was a fight. I don't know.
He was involved. Carlos was in. Come on.
But I'm just saying that you have to have big balls to say, "Oh, I didn't know, but I'm going to bail him out."
He was involved, and he was worried that Jose was going to snitch like a little rat. Simple as that. That's why else would he do it? He was trying to protect his investment.
Correct.
No, I agree. I 100% agree, because when you do something like that, like, here's my thing. Piers, me and you have become really close over the last couple months. Angel, me and you talk every single day. One of you come up to me and you go, or not even come up to me, but one of you goes to jail for murder. I'm staying as far away from that as possible. I love you. I come put money on your books. I hope you get a soup and a bologna sandwich every day. But as far as bailing you out, I can't have my name attached to that.
Yeah.
No.
And I hope that if you didn't do it, once you're cleared of it, we can talk and you can understand where I'm coming from. Look, I'm a cop. I got kids. I got a family. I need to keep myself clear. You put it in his position. I am the owner of a company, investors or attendants or whatever the case may be, people wanting to come and work for me. I cannot be associated with this. He said, screw that. I'm going to do it anyway.
Well,
he didn't want him to sing like a little friggin' bird.
Exactly.
Especially when you're a cop, you're always in the you're always going to be scrutinized. Because let me give you a good story. It's a real short version. I was dating this girl. She was batshit crazy. She fucking abused her face when I was sleeping because she wanted me to be dating her. I didn't want to date her, but we were just seeing each other. So one night I was sleeping in her bed and I woke up half asleep and she's looking in the mirror, touching her face, and I fell back asleep. The next day, when I went to work in uniform, came back, she had a black eye. And I said, what the fuck happened? She goes, oh, when you left, my ex-husband came and punched me in the eye. He, I looked through the people and I saw him. So I put the chain on. When I opened it, he punched me. So then I'm like, oh, we got to call the police. I can't do the report because we have a relationship together.
You're involved.
I got to get one of my beat buddies to do it. So he did the report. So apparently, what happened is that they filed criminal charges, domestic violence on the guy, but he was in Indiana and he had proof. He had a fucking receipt that he was in a restaurant when this occurred. And when I analyzed the situation, and she said he punched him through the when she had the chain, I said, how the fuck is this guy?
That's the very first thing I thought. If you're standing behind a door right here, the chain only allows you to go this way at an angle. If you were standing behind the door, he can't bend his arm around the door.
So then they questioned me.
Punch the door, and the door sort of like snaps the chain off and hits her in the face.
The only thing that could have happened is if he booted the door, busted the chain, and it hit her in the face. But even then, a guy my size probably couldn't do that in one kick.
But when I told her we were going to file a report, she said, no, I don't want to file a report. Well, no, we got to, because if I don't report it, I'm going to be liable in trouble. But anyway, the district attorney wanted to file criminal charges against her for making a false police report. I got questioned in professional standards because the outcome of the situation and what painted in my brain was I fucking punched her in the face. I tried to cover it up to blame somebody else. My fucking job was on the line. So I was protecting her. And it could have went south, and I would have been charged with domestic violence when I didn't even touch the woman. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I can understand he needs to keep distance himself from the situation because they would spin something to say you was involved. Why did you bail this guy out? Why are you so close to him? You had something to do with it. You was involved. There's something going on. Why are you defending this guy?
But it was 1988. No one asked the question. No one gave a fuck. It was the middle of Puerto Rico. Corruption.
Because every time they asked the question, he changed the answer.
Exactly.
Roddy Piper, baby. You know.
So in closing, we're hitting that 1 hour mark. In closing, I'm going to leave this one question. We're all going to give our answer, and I'm sure it's going to be pretty unanimous across the board. Was the death of Busier Brody not only cold blood murder, but was it covered up to protect the boys in Puerto Rico? Piers?
Yes.
Angel?
You already have my answer. I agree 100% yes.
And
guilty.
The thing is, you have three men with alpha male mentalities where we want to prove our point, where we want to, when we agree on something that we're not the end all be all, but we love to argue with each other. And when we can't find an argument to come back at each other, the writing's on the walls, guys. So with that said, I do believe that this was cold blood murder on Busier Brody. I think it was a cover up from the start. I think there's a lot of people in people's pockets, a lot of palms getting greased, and I feel sorry. It is absolutely sickening that a young man who is now a grown man will never have the closure of his father's death. There's a widow who will never be able to properly mourn her husband because there was never any justice sought.
Yeah, I mean, the crime fit. They shouldn't have quit. You know, I'm just going off that.
The glove did fit.
The glove did fit. You know, the crime of the evidence. But
unfortunately, in this situation, there was no glove to be found.
But shit, did they find? I can't even remember if they found the knife or not.
I don't think they did.
I don't think they ever found the knife.
Again, premeditation. What happened to the knife? It was self-defense. Here's the knife. This is the knife I stabbed them with. Right? Where did the knife? See, again, as we talk, the deeper we get into it, the more evidence and more questions are coming up. This could be a 4-hour show if we wanted to be.
I think
absolutely it could be. And we're definitely going. We have a lot of things on the agenda. Like,
you know what, Kevin? Let's put a part one. Let's put a part one to this story. Just leave it as a part one. We would definitely get back with a part two eventually.
Done. And with that being said, guys, here at Wrestling with Tragedy, my name is Kevin. You got the kingpin, the king of the streets, Angel Medina. You got Piers Austin all the way from Australia. Guys, we just want to leave you with this positive. We want to leave you with a positive note and plug our sponsors, Mayon Belts. If you don't have any belts, whether they be custom, replica, anything in between, payment plan as low as $20 a paycheck, guys, make sure you hit up Mayon Belts, Eddie and Ira Williams, as they appear in all the belt pages. And if you can't find them, can't get a hold of them, and you need that belt fix, hit up one of the three of us, and we'll definitely steer you in the right direction, get you in contact with Eddie and Ira Williams. Lastly, guys, A-Rock Designs, the company that made this amazing Bullet Club cup and can make you any custom merchandise that you want, cups, hoodies, keychains, whatever the case may be. Make sure you hit up A-Rock Designs on Facebook. Once again, you can't get a hold of them or can't find out where to find it, hit up one of the three of us, and we know right where to take you guys. With that being said, that is going to be it for the part one episode of Busier Brody on Wrestling with Tragedy. We are definitely going to rehash this and dive deeper into the police reports, the autopsy reports, and all that good stuff. Thank you guys for watching this video. Thank you for supporting us, and stay tuned for next week's episode. If you thought this was good, you're not going to want to miss the next one. See you guys.
Subscribe. Click, share, subscribe. We appreciate you guys.